The situation unfolding over here.
Making s'mores is great, but sometimes it's a little too cold, windy, rainy to have a campfire outside. And that's what's great about Sterno. And these little containers that are used for buffets, they keep your food warm, you can roast marshmallows over them, and that's really cool that you can buy it in a can. But today, we're gonna learn how to make our own DIY Sterno containers out of 3 items that you can easily access. We're going to use calcium acetate, an isopropyl alcohol, and water. And I'm also going to show you how to make your own calcium acetate at home so that you don't have to buy this container. You can just go buy a carton of eggs. Shout out to the people in the comments that were challenging me to find an at-home DIY project that they could do. Today's project is not only something you can cook over, but something you can make into a fire jelly ball, and I'll show you how to do that at the end. So to start out, we're going to use water and isopropyl alcohol, and we are going to use this calcium acetate that is 99% pure. You can order this on Amazon, you can order it from other chemical places, but first what we're going to do is take 50 milliliters of water, and we're going to add 15 grams of calcium acetate to this water. The reason we're using such a large difference is because we want to make sure that this water is completely saturated with the calcium acetate. So we're gonna go ahead and give this a nice stir. You get some bubbling, some fizzing, wonderful. So that is a fully saturated solution of calcium acetate in water. So now we're going to use 150 milliliters of isopropyl alcohol. You can use other alcohols, but I highly suggest using this 99% isopropyl alcohol because it is safe to cook over and safe for humans to be around. Any other ones you don't really want to eat around. Sweet. So now we're gonna pour it into here. And this is my favorite part of this whole thing. This is where the magic happens. It reminds me of the thick water. And there it is. You get this awesome jelly-like structure. What I love about this experiment is that number 1, it's incredibly simple. And number 2, you're playing with the solubility of calcium acetate. So it's incredibly soluble in water. We saw it dissolve almost fully when we had it with the water. But when you add an alcohol to it, something magical happens. You get this amazing jelly-like material that you can hold, touch, and play with. What I really love about it more than really anything is that you can be a firebender with this. So you can throw fireballs for the first time in your life. But before we get there, we need to see how this actually ignites and what it does and how it's happening. So before I light this, I want you guys to know one thing. So the alcohol that we use is now trapped within this calcium acetate gel that we have created. So the alcohol is entrapped in here, and that's what's going to allow it to do this. So if we lit alcohol just on fire by itself, it's going to evaporate, be used as fuel, and you see this amazing crystallization happening on the outside. So when the fire is introduced, the oxygen from this calcium acetate is helping fuel the fire. What you're seeing on the outside is the residue of the calcium acetate, and if we continue to let it burn, what's going to happen is the outside of it gets this really cool white coating, which you can kind of see, but the inside stays jelly. So now that I've cut it up and exposed that jelly again, and it's not covered in just the calcium acetate, you get this fire again. And as it burns, it uses the little pockets of the isopropyl alcohol that are within this jelly. I love this. To me, this is so satisfying because it's so simple, but it's so amazing because you're playing with the different phases of this isopropyl jelly and this isopropyl alcohol and the calcium carbonate in its own unique way. So when we saw it go soluble, we saw how insoluble it was, and then we saw it light on fire. So we know that our calcium acetate that is from a lab works perfectly, and this is our base for this experiment. But I went ahead and made some calcium acetate on my own. I followed Now Red, and I followed how he made his own calcium acetate at home, and it makes this really unique material. So this is made from eggshells, and what you do with those eggshells is you take them, you smash them up, and then you put them in a vinegar that I use a 6%. and then you let it sit for a couple days, and as the CO2 bubbles away, the eggshells are finally able to fall to the bottom. Once those eggs fall to the bottom, you know that your solution is pretty much ready to go. I strained mine about 4 or 5 times to make sure that I got all the eggshells, impurities, and everything out, and then you take your solution and you put it on a hot plate. It goes through a couple different phases. You see it go from this kind of cloudiness to a kind of clear, and then it gets even more cloudy. And then from there, it turns this yellowy color, and then all of a sudden, all the calcium acetate crashes out. And you're just left with this pot of this mushy material, and you can see that mine is not perfectly pure. It has a yellow tint to it, which is okay. It's fine. It's homemade calcium acetate, so it's going to have some impurities and imperfections to it. But I'm going to go ahead and take some of these chunks, smash it up, and hopefully we'll get 15 grams out of my yield that I made. So I'm excited to see how this works. All right, 50 milliliters of water. We need 15 grams of calcium acetate. This is our homemade calcium acetate. We're gonna pour it into our water. Oh yeah, we get that nice watery and milky color. I think that's really interesting. So when we had the calcium acetate before, it was clear. The water was clear. It was what it was. This is milky and kind of chunky at the bottom, which is fine. Now we need isopropyl alcohol, 150 milliliters. All right. Have a glass here, and let's see if our homemade calcium acetate will have the same reaction. Oh, it's a little whiter and fluffier. I feel like there's more of it, which doesn't really make sense because we use the exact same amounts. Wow, I am very impressed with our homemade calcium acetate and how it turned into this awesome jelly. Let's give this a scoop and a same burn test and see if we get a similar result, because that will be the telltale sign. Okay, we got a scoop. I'm gonna squish it. Good flame. Looks like it's doing what it's supposed to. You can see the crystallization on the outside of the calcium acetate. If we cut it in half, reignites the burn even more. My spatula is on fire. This is my favorite when it starts to do this flickering thing. I love that. It smells a little vinegary, which makes sense because our homemade one, we let the eggshell sit in vinegar for so long, but this one smells very kind of vinegary, has a unique smell to it. Guys, I'm impressed with the homemade version. And all you needed was vinegar that's either from 6 to 10%, so not the edible one, the cleaning kind, eggshells, and I just used an 18 pack of eggs and just used the eggshells. I actually ate the eggs for breakfast and then just kept the eggshells until I had enough. So I am very impressed with our homemade fire. Now let's go ahead and get some of the sterno out so we can see what's inside and see how it ignites. It's green and jello-y. I'm gonna get a scoop out. I do know that sterno has calcium acetate in it. That is their main ingredient. I know that they keep it kind of under wraps of like what's in sterno, but I do know there's calcium acetate and it is a very similar reaction. So let's go ahead and ignite this bad boy. Ooh, much lighter. This one really gives you that like campfire effect.
It's authentic with the sound.
Mm-hmm. So they say sterno has a 45-minute burn time, which is kind of a long time in terms of a little green liquid guy that's jello-ish and jello-y. But yeah, it works, it burns, and that is what our calcium acetate has to hold up against. And to compare all of these and their burn times, we have our own little candle set here. So these are something you can buy on Amazon. These could be a really cool gift to give people. You just take these tins, these are candle tins, and we are going to load all of them up with, one of them is going to be the sterno, and then we're going to put the same amount of the calcium acetate, and then the homemade eggshell calcium acetate. Look at this one, it really firmed up on us. So we have our 3 stoves here. We have our eggs container, which I'm gonna put over here. And then we have our sterno here, and then our pure. So I am going to take these marshmallows, and while we wait for the results of these, I'm gonna show you guys how we make jelly fireballs and how you can be a fireball bender.
Well, the egg is really taken off.
My marshmallow!
The eggs
are really going.
There's a situation unfolding over here. What happened?
I don't know, but it's how I like my marshmallows.
I know.
Oh my
no.
gosh! Why did this go sideways so fast?
It's too powerful. Yeah, I don't know if it is edible after that.
Let's see how the eggs one tastes.
This is eggs.
Uh-huh.
Dude, it's still crushing.
I know, the sterno, it's doing okay. Like the flame is a little bit more invisible. The pure has this crazy crystallization happening where you can see the calcium acetate on the outside. But eggs, man, they are just cranking it.
Eggs are where it's at.
I didn't think they'd be this powerful. I feel like we could cook a piece of chicken on that. I think the noticeable difference is that the eggs isn't 100% pure calcium acetate. So the flame is probably burning some of the other residual material along with it, where these two are pure calcium acetate, and you can look at the flame and you can see it. So I made a new batch out of our homemade material. And what I'm doing is I'm just scooping off the top, but we're squeezing the alcohol out. And that allows this whole thing to kind of clump together. I'm gonna let this ball that I've created sit here for a second. I'm gonna go rinse off my hands because you have to add cold water because you don't wanna light it on fire when you are literally have alcohol on your hands. So I'm gonna go wet my hands with water. I'm going to light this on fire. Ready? Oh, it went out. Just burning on the workbench. It's fine. We all know alcohol evaporates really easily, and we know it burns very easily too. If I light this, watch how quickly it goes. Oh, it ignited this one. But watch how quickly this alcohol will go away. Because we have it concentrated in this ball of calcium acetate, it's going to burn much, much longer. And it's gone. But because the calcium acetate in here is holding in a jelly-like structure in the alcohol, it entraps the isopropyl alcohol within the gel, and so as it burns, it's releasing little bubbles of isopropyl alcohol to feed the flame, which is why you get this really cool, jumpy-looking flame instead of it just burning consistently. And it gives you a much longer burn time. Okay, so I've got our fireball here. It is calcium acetate gel. Ready? You can juggle fire. This is like hot potato in real life because this does get very hot as the water wears off of my hands. But still holdable. I just love it. It's so fun. Our eggs are starting to go out. Oh, sterno has completely burned out. We have used up all the sterno, and this pure is done as well. The only one remaining is eggs. The pure, it burned very nicely. It has a really nice white and clean crystallization, which is what the calcium acetate looked like when it was in my pan, when I was cooking all of the nonsense out, even though this is the pure. That's really, really cool. With the sterno, it was a little yellow and it did leave more residue. So it still has that greeny yellow. It has that black residue on it. Eggs is still hot, but you can see that it didn't burn as clean. So you have that black and that brown, which we are more expecting because it has a little bit more of an organic material to it. It's not just calcium acetate and isopropyl alcohol. It also has the residue from organic eggs themselves that the birds and hens lay. This was really cool. This is a great project for you to do at home, and it's really fun because, you know, you get to play with chemistry and you get to look at the eggs that are in your refrigerator and be like, I made something out of these eggs. Like, these eggs can turn into calcium acetate, which I then can use to store and burn and potentially cook a chicken on, honestly. I love this. This was really fun. We got to cook some marshmallows, hold fireballs. If there's anything else you want to see us do with calcium acetate, let us know in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to explore it and check out your other ideas that you have for videos. And if you want to see more of this content, make sure you check out one of our other videos, and for sure check out our podcast. If you leave a rating and review there, we'll make sure to shout you out on the podcast.